Hey guys, what's up? I want to show you a fun one today, which is turning a 2D photo into a 3D environment. I'm going to include all these assets that I'm about to use, as well as this project file in the link below, so you can download it, you can follow along, or just make your own stuff with it. Um, this is pretty easy to do, and you can do it with almost any photo. Some are obviously easier than others, but there's always ways to do it. As well, I'm just going to do this one pretty simple, so I'm not going to use any third-party plugins where I normally would. I'd use particles or lens flare and stuff with other plugins, but I just want you guys to be able to do the exact same thing, so I'm including everything that I'm going to use, which is some dust particle footage that you can see here that we're going to overlay. I've included this fog. It's an alpha channel, so you can't see it here, but there will be some fog that you can overlay. This is the main photo of the mountains that we're going to cut up and turn into a 3D environment. As well, there's some extra, just a transparent mountain, and then a vignette that is just for style and nothing else. So first thing we'll do is make a new camera. 35 millimeters fine. I'm going to do another one where I kind of go through the whole camera and explain everything, one node, two node, all the lenses and everything. But for now, we'll just keep it pretty basic. So I'm just keeping it on 35 millimeter. If you press P in the Z-axis here, you can back it up to about 5,000. You're not going to see anything now, but I basically just backed up the camera a lot to give us a bigger view. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is drop in the photo of the snowy mountain. We're going to turn it on to a 3D layer and put the motion blur on, which looks good in the final output. And we're basically just going to start cutting this up into sections. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'll call this foreground snow 1, is we're going to get some snow right up front, the closest to the camera. So select the mask pen tool here, and we're just going to start cutting around the first little layer of snow here. Just try to find a nice spot where it looks like it might cut or make a hill or something. Seal it off, and then it's going to give us just a little chunk of snow. If you press F on it, it'll bring you to the mask feather, and we can just kind of feather the edges a little bit and make it a little more smooth. So now the camera's backed up to about minus 5,000 in the Z-axis, so since we want this right up front to be the closest thing to us, we'll put this at about minus 4,500. We're going to have to scale it down a lot because it's going to be super big, and then we'll bring it up like that, scaling it down even a little more. There we go. All right, so we got our closest foreground layer in, so I'm going to turn it off for now. We'll drop the photo in again, turn it 3D, motion blur, and then you can see there's a little bit of a hill here, so I'm going to keep going from there. So just around this hill, like that. And this is going to be the second closest thing to the camera, so I'll call this foreground snow 2. And I'll turn on the first layer again. That one's at minus 4,500, so I'll make this one at minus 4,000. Scale it down a lot and move it up into place. Got to scale it up a little bit just so the edges touch, like that, and we'll move it up there. So now you can see already, if we move the camera forward, we got a false sense of depth from the photo already, but we'll just keep going. So we'll drop the photo in again. I'm going to turn off those other layers for now, make this one 3D again. This time, you can cut it up as many times as you want, try to make as much depth as possible, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to cut this one a little short. So I'll just cut this mid-ground layer of snow here along like that. Just like that. And we'll call this mid-ground snow. I'll turn on the other layers. So the foreground is more minus 4,500, minus 4,000. So this one we'll do at minus 3,000. And we'll scale it down a little bit and pull it up in the position about there. It's looking good. All right, so once again, I'm going to turn those off. I'm going to drop in the photo. I'm not going to turn on 3DX. I need to see the edges. I'm going to scale it down a little bit. I'm going to use the mask tool, and this time we're going to go around the mountains. And this is going to be starting to get into our background layers now. This won't be the furthest back object. But basically just trace around the mountaintop. Like so. I'm going to leave some of these really distant ones out of this, just to give more sense of depth. There we go. There. So now we've got our mountain layer, so we can turn that onto 3D motion blur, and we can turn these ones back on. We'll rename this mountains. All right, so the still isn't going to be the furthest back thing, but it's pretty far back. So we'll put this at about minus 1,000, and then we'll scale it up a lot. And position, and we'll just move it up a bit, like that. So now you can see it's already creating a pretty nice sense of depth. Put this back. Okay, so one last thing with the photo is getting the background, which is pretty easy. Just drop the photo in one more time, turn it on to 3D, motion blur. I'm actually going to set this one back further than 0, so it'd be positive direction, and I'm going to put it at positive 1,000. I'm going to scale it up a lot. Position, just pull the sky down a bit. And there you go. So that's pretty much the basics of it. I'm going to add a little more to it. I threw in this snowy mountain PNG file, which has a transparent background. So this will just help get a little bit more sense of depth. So I put that mountain in there, turn it onto a 3D layer. I'm going to put this one at about 500, plus 500 in the Z-axis. So it's in front of the sky, but it's further back than the mountains. And I'm just going to kind of throw it back there in the background. It also isn't color corrected to the photo, so we'll just try to match it up a little bit better. Also, as things get further away, they usually get a little brighter and harder to see, so we'll turn up the lightness a bit. Photo filter, we'll just add a bit of blue to it, not that much. That's fine for now. Play with it more and get it a little closer. Okay. So there we go. So now we've got some nice movement. The camera has creating an environment. So a couple more things I want to do is just include these other assets that'll help sort of sell it. So this fog alpha channel, I'm going to put this one just in front of the mountains. So turn it onto a 3D layer. Let's look at what the mountain's at. It's at minus 1028. So we'll put this at like minus 100. So it's in front of the mountains there. We'll scale it up a bit, but we also kind of want it to go across the screen. So I'm just going to create a mask over it, not right to the edges, sort of in the middle, so that when I feather it, I can turn it up really high and it sort of softens out the edges. Turn it up even more to like 50. There we go. So I'm going to scale this up a little bit more, and I'm going to duplicate it and move one over there. And I'm going to duplicate it again. Move one over here. So now it kind of stretches across like that. And it's a movie too, so as it plays out, you'll see some movement in the fog. And then I'll also add in the dust particles, which will kind of resemble snow. I'll find a nice spot in the clip where there's a good amount of them, like that. And I'll drag that in just over maybe the midground area. We're going to want to right click on it, blending mode, screen. Now the background of this isn't perfectly black, so you can sort of see. First we got to pull it into position. So the midground is about minus 3,000. So I'm going to put this at about minus 3,500. Okay, and I'm going to scale it down. Now you can see this footage, you can see the edges of it right here because the background isn't completely black. So on it, I'm going to add levels, and I'm just going to crush the blacks a bit and then turn up the mids for the white, and then stretch it out. So now you can see There's some snow there. And this is when normally I would use the plugin trap code particular, because it'll create particles for you and they work with the camera, so they'll be in 3D space, so you don't need to like create false layers with video footage. But just in case you guys don't have that, that's why I threw in this stock footage. So just to sell it a bit more, I'll duplicate the dust particles, and I'll also bring them forward to about minus 4500, scale it down a bit, just so there's a couple layers in the z-axis of this dust particle footage. I'll press P and the camera, and we'll just have the camera move towards it. We might also want to add a wiggle expression by pressing Alt and click on the keyframe of point of interest, and we'll do wiggle, let's say 1530, and that'll create sort of a jerky motion, so it looks like maybe there's like a windstorm up there or something. And I'm just going to let this RAM preview for a little bit to show you what we made. Do about 3 seconds here. There you go. So already that looks pretty good. We've kind of made a 3D environment out of just a 2D photo, which is a pretty neat trick. There's a lot more you can do. These are just the basics of it. But yeah, it's a fun thing. Give it a try. Let me see what you made. Post it in the comments. And I'll do another lesson soon. Thanks.